in good weather going against each other because I want to see how both teams do with all the conditions being kind of the same. But there is a chance that it'll rain. For right now, it says that it looks like it's going to rain in the morning, but cool off by game time. Obviously, that's a couple days away. Those things are subject to kind of change a little bit. We've seen the Eagles be able to play really well in the rain as um, early as the last game against the Bills. We saw them have no problem in the rain. And unfortunately, with the 49ers, we've seen them really struggle in the game. My immediate thought goes to that Colts game, then the monsoon against the Chicago Bears. But then when we're talking about Purdy, we had that playoff game. There was a quarter against Seattle where it rained and he really struggled. And it was the Browns game this year, right? That you kind of saw kind of his worst play in my opinion so far, where the ball kind of fell out of his hand, which is interesting because he doesn't have, even though he is a smaller guy, I think I heard someone say he has bigger hands than Trey Lance did. So it's not like he has like tiny hands or something. And he also played in college where there was weather, but you've really seen him kind of struggle in the rain games. Kyle Shanahan has been asked before if he likes to prepare using a wet football. He kind of scoffs at that question. I remember a year or two ago when he was originally asked about it, he said he thinks that it can get in the players' heads if they have to practice with a wet ball, and that he feels like they're overthinking it. Now, this year he didn't say that, but he just said that no, they wouldn't be doing that. Now, Brock Purdy, however, did say that he was going to test it out before the game when he was asked about it today, and he said that he would be open to using a glove if he needed to, and open to kind of dunking the football in water and practicing with a wide receiver after practice on his own. So it does seem like he's able to, or he's going to, step up and take the initiative if that feels like something he needs to practice for. Are you worried about the rain if there is rain?
Um, I do think that it's important. I think that it's something that could affect how the game goes because we've seen rain games in the past affect quarterback play specifically, not only with the 49ers, but in general. And if you talk about the way the rain game goes, I do think that it'll favor Philadelphia because Philadelphia has one of the best running attacks in the NFL. That RPO system has been very effective, and the number one thing Philadelphia is able to do when they get those a good run game going is have third and short. In short distance situations, just in general, that obviously favors them with the way that they operate, the way that they're able to win up front. And I think when it comes to rain games, there are a few factors that matter. The run game is one because obviously that's the way that teams usually like to move the football, and trench play is the other. And so I think the advantage goes to Philadelphia because I think right now, if you think about it, they probably have the advantage in both. They even even if Christian McCaffrey, right? Christian McCaffrey is undoubtedly one of the best team running backs, if not the best in the NFL. But even without him, I mean, even with him, Philadelphia has a strong running game. I mean, they're able to move the ball well. I think their efficiency this year has been down, but I also think that's in portion due to the amount that Jalen Hurts runs and the short distance situation that Hurts runs for. He only averages 3.6 yards per carry. And if you look at the remainder of the bunch, talking about guys like DeAndre Swift, talking about, they've got a couple of couple of names there that have kind of as seen playing time this year. But a guy like DeAndre Swift, who's been their main running back, he averages 4.8 yards per carry. And so when you look at the efficiency, they've been efficient. They've run the football at a high rate. And they score a good amount of touchdowns as well with Hurts on the ground. He has 18 passing touchdowns and 11 rushing touchdowns this year. And then the other portion that I talked about, trench play. Well, the Eagles have a strong offensive line. I mean, and with Lane Johnson back, it's going to be fully healthy. You've got Kelsey there, you've got Johnson there, you've got Jordan Mailata on one side, Landon Dickerson on the other side. Even with the loss of Isaac Seumalo, I think they've slotted in Cam Jurgens into that not left, right guard spot, and so he's gotten a couple of he's gotten some play as well, and so I do think that overall they've got a good team. You can argue which defensive line is better, but I do think when you look matchup wise, the Eagles have a better matchup because the 49ers offensive line isn't as strong, whereas the remainder of the trench play, 49ers D line, Eagles O line, Eagles D line are all pretty good.
I love that. I was gonna say it's kind of it's gonna be a strength on a strength with the 49ers defensive line against that O line, but there is gonna be some mismatches. I was gonna well, we'll start here. Who do you have more confidence in? We're gonna start with the quarterbacks. Who do you have more confidence in, Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts? If you were going to start a team maybe from scratch, or if you just want to talk about in this game, when it comes to protecting the football, when it comes to scoring touchdowns, you kind of talked about Christian McCaffrey. I think you can double check me on this, but Jalen Hurts and Christian McCaffrey are tied for 11 rushing touchdowns this year, right? Kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
We both have the
yeah.
same amount. That's such an asset that the Eagles have with Jalen Hurts. That's so crazy that they're getting
I know,
that from
I
other
know. That's the
people.
way that they're able to operate, and it's efficient.
Yeah. And that's why like a lot of time like sometimes you're kind of like, why is he in the MVP conversation? He's really not protecting the football and stuff like that. But with him bringing that like total complete aspect, like he's basically two players in one. Like he gets to be their quarterback and their star running back. Like he's doing the work that Purdy is doing if Purdy was Purdy and McCaffrey in one guy, kind of. That might
Yeah,
be oversimplifying it, but it's
but you're
pretty.
talking about confidence. I think this is a tough question. And I'm not saying it's tough because I do believe there is one quarterback who is definitively better than the other. I think at this stage right now, I think there is one quarterback who has proven a little more and who's been definitively a little better in their career. However, if you talk about confidence, like I mentioned at the beginning of the year, sorry, beginning of this episode. I keep saying random times. Beginning of this episode, though, Jalen Hurts has 14 turnovers this season. That's double of what Brock Purdy has. I believe even more than double, or no, directly double because Purdy has 2 fumbles, 5 interceptions. That's double of
Yeah.
what Brock Purdy has. So that's been an issue this year, and that's why I think you can create an argument for Brock Purdy being higher than Jalen Hurts if you talk about the MVP race. I think that there's an argument to be made. I don't know if I would go strongly into that argument. I think it could be a flip of the coin, but a lot of people believe Jalen Hurts is the front runner for MVP. I don't even know if he's the front runner in his own division for MVP. I would put my vote for Dak Prescott over Jalen Hurts if I had given the choice. I've been pretty high on the Dak Prescott MVP race this year. I don't know if he's the front runner overall, but I believe that he's been very underrated this year. And so if I'm talking more confidence, I think I still have to
Especially
go
after
Hurts,
that last game,
especially.
I felt like that got some people talking. You need
Oh
to
yeah,
do well
because
on those
it's in prime
primetime
time.
standalone
Yeah,
games.
yeah, and so he'll have another opportunity next week because he faces Philly in prime time. Philly, I mean, that's going to be a huge divisional game. But confidence-wise, I'm going to go with Hurts just because, especially when you consider the circumstances of this game, the run effect will be a little more important. Hurts obviously provides a lot more in that realm. And overall, if I'm talking about building a team, I think that I'd prefer a quarterback like Hurts, a guy who you can create a system around, and a guy who has the dual threat capability. But I do think that there is an argument to be made when you talk about specifically decision making with the way turnovers have happened this year for Hurts.
I really like that. Um I feel like it's so interesting because I don't think that the Eagles would trade for Brock Purdy. Like I think that the way their team has been constructed, Jalen Hurts is the perfect quarterback for them. But I also think that the 49ers wouldn't want Jalen Hurts. I think that they like both teams have really mastered kind of building a team around their quarterback, which is kind of interesting because the Eagles have obviously had a little bit more time to do that around Hurts than the 49ers have around Brock Purdy. They kind of just, I don't want to say fell into a perfect fit, but um, I do think it's an interesting conversation because I think in order to actually judge them, you kind of have to say, okay, if I was starting from scratch, because both teams, at least how they are right now, I don't think would trade their quarterbacks straight up for the other. Do you? Do you think that Kyle Shanahan would trade Purdy for Hurts right now?
I do, yeah. I think
Oh,
if you had the
really? Okay.
opportunity,
I like
I
this.
think
I
if
like
you had
this.
the opportunity, you'd take Jalen Hurts.
Okay, I like that. That's interesting.